The smoke alarm woke me at 2 in the morning, its piercing shriek cutting through the darkness. I smelled it before I was fully conscious. The acrid chemical scent of accelerant burning, not the natural smell of wood or fabric catching fire. I tried my bedroom door, locked from the outside. The old-fashioned kind with a key, the kind my father had installed throughout his Victorian house 40 years ago because he liked the vintage aesthetic. The kind my brother Marcus knew how to lock from the hallway. Smoke was already seeping under the door, thick and black. I ran to my window, shoved it open, and looked down at the 15-foot drop to the brick patio below. Breaking an ankle was better than dying. But there was another option, the back staircase. The servants' stairs from when this house was built in 1920, narrow and hidden, connecting my floor to the kitchen. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and crawled toward the back of my room, staying low where the air was clearer. The hidden door was behind the bookshelf, a panel that looked like wall but opened if you knew where to push. My father had shown me when I was 10, making me promise to keep it secret. He'd always been paranoid about fires in old houses. The staircase was full of smoke but not yet burning. I felt my way down in complete darkness, one hand on the wall, phone in the other. The door at the bottom opened into the kitchen. I stumbled out, gasping, my lungs screaming for clean air. Through the kitchen window, I saw my mother's Mercedes parked across the street, interior light on. She was sitting in the driver's seat, watching the house. Just watching. I didn't stop to process what that meant. I ran out the back door into the yard, into the cold November air, and called 911. The fire department arrived within 6 minutes. Police came with them. By the time the fire was contained, the entire second floor was destroyed. My childhood bedroom was gone. Marcus's bedroom, untouched. The office where my father had died 3 months ago, damaged but not destroyed. The fire marshal interviewed me while paramedics checked me for smoke inhalation. I told him about waking up locked in, about the accelerant smell, about escaping through the servants' stairs. I told him about my mother's car parked across the street. "You're saying someone locked you in and started the fire deliberately?" he asked, his expression carefully neutral. "My brother Marcus. He's the only other person with keys to those bedroom locks." "Where is your brother now?" "I don't know. He doesn't live here. I'm the only one who lives here since my father died." The police found Marcus 2 hours later at his apartment 12 miles away. They brought him in for questioning. His story was that he'd been home all night, hadn't been anywhere near the house. He seemed genuinely shocked when they told him about the fire. His phone's GPS data told a different story. He'd been parked 2 blocks from the house from 1:45 until 2:20 a.m. Security cameras from a neighbor's house showed his car driving past at 1:50, then returning at 2:15. My mother's story was even less believable. She claimed she'd been driving around unable to sleep, happened to be passing by when she saw smoke, and stopped to see if anyone needed help. When they showed her the timestamp proving she'd been parked there for 30 minutes before the fire started, she changed her story. She said she'd been worried about me, wanted to check on me, but didn't want to disturb me so late, so she sat in her car trying to decide what to do. They arrested Marcus on suspicion of arson. They arrested my mother as an accessory after determining she'd been in contact with him by phone immediately before and during the fire. The forensic analysis of their phone records showed text messages between them that evening, though both had deleted them. Phone company records showed the messages existed. Data recovery specialists would eventually retrieve the content. I was in the hospital for 2 days for smoke inhalation treatment. The detective assigned to the case, a methodical woman named Detective Sarah Vance, came to interview me on the second day. "We need to understand motive," she said, sitting beside my hospital bed with a notepad. "Why would your brother want to harm you?" "My father's estate," I said. Marcus thought he was inheriting everything. Thought. The will left everything to both of us equally. But there wasn't much in the will, just the house and about $200,000 in savings. The real money my father moved before he died. Detective Vance's pen stopped moving. Moved it where? Into an irrevocable trust. $12 million established 18 months before his death. I'm the sole trustee and primary beneficiary. Marcus was supposed to receive a distribution of $100,000 per year for 10 years, contingent on certain conditions. After that, nothing. The bulk of the estate was mine. Did your brother know about this trust? No. My father specifically kept it confidential. He didn't want Marcus knowing because he was worried about exactly this kind of reaction. What conditions were attached to your brother's distributions? I handed her a folder I'd brought from home before the fire, documents I've been keeping with me since my father's death. No criminal convictions, no drug use. Maintaining stable employment. Attending family therapy sessions. My father was trying to force Marcus to get his life together. If he violated any condition, his distributions stopped and that money reverted to the trust permanently. Detective Vance read through the trust documents. So your brother thought he was inheriting millions, but actually he was getting $100,000 a year if he behaved, and you got everything else. He didn't even know about the trust. He thought the house and savings were all there was, and we'd split it 50-50. He was wrong on both counts. When did you plan to tell him about the trust? My father's estate attorney was supposed to tell him at the final estate settlement meeting next week. The trust was already established and funded. There was nothing to contest. It was just a matter of informing Marcus about his conditional distributions. She looked up from the documents. So your brother tried to kill you for an estate that doesn't exist the way he thinks it does. Apparently. The next few weeks were consumed by investigation and legal proceedings. The data recovery specialists retrieved Marcus's deleted text messages. They were damning. Conversations with our mother about how they could handle the estate situation. Marcus saying I was in the way of him getting what he deserved. My mother suggesting that accidents happen in old houses, especially with faulty wiring. They planned it, not well, but deliberately. Marcus would lock me in, start a fire, and make it look like an electrical problem. Our mother would be nearby as an alibi witness, ready to testify she'd seen nothing suspicious. They'd split my share of the inheritance, which they calculated at around $6 million based on the house's value and what they assumed were my father's assets. They had no idea about the trust. No idea that what they were trying to steal didn't exist in the form they imagined. The district attorney charged Marcus with attempted arson and conspiracy to commit. My mother faced charges of conspiracy to commit and accessory before the fact. The evidence was overwhelming. The GPS data, the phone records, the deleted messages, my mother's presence across the street, Marcus's movements matching the timeline of the fire. Marcus's attorney tried to negotiate a plea deal, 20 years for attempted with the possibility of parole. The DA's office consulted me. It's your decision ultimately, the prosecutor told me. We can take this to trial, probably win, and he'll get 25 to 30 years. Or we can accept the plea, guarantee 20 years, and save the cost of a trial. What about my mother? She's negotiating separately. Her attorney is arguing she didn't know Marcus would actually go through with it, that she thought he was just venting. We're offering her 8 years if she testifies against Marcus, 10 if she doesn't. She sat in her car and watched the house burn knowing I was inside. I said, that's not didn't know. That's participation. I agree. But proving what she knew versus what she claims she knew is harder than proving what Marcus did. In the end, Marcus took the plea deal, 20 years, eligible for parole after 17. My mother refused to testify against him and got 10 years. The estate settlement happened while they were awaiting sentencing. Marcus's attorney attended via video conference from the jail. My mother attended in person, released on bail pending her sentencing hearing. My father's estate attorney, Gerald Matthews, explained the trust structure to Marcus for the first time. I watched Marcus's face on the screen as he realized the truth. The house he tried to kill me to inherit was worth maybe $900,000 but carried a mortgage of $600,000. The savings he thought would be millions were $200,000 split 2 ways, most of which would go to legal fees and restitution. The real money, $12 million, was in a trust he'd never known about, controlled entirely by me, with his distributions contingent on conditions he already violated spectacularly by committing attempted. The trust was established 18 months before your father's death. Gerald explained in his precise attorney voice. It was funded through the systematic transfer of assets from various accounts and investments. Your father was very deliberate about this. He wanted to ensure the bulk of his wealth was protected and distributed according to his specific wishes. Marcus's attorney leaned forward. Are you saying there was no estate, that everything was in this trust? The estate consists of the house and approximately $200,000 in liquid assets, Gerald confirmed. Everything else, the investment portfolio, the life insurance proceeds, the business interests, all of that was transferred into the Morrison Family Trust before your father's death. It's completely separate from the probate estate. The trust documents specify that any beneficiary convicted of a felony loses all distributions permanently. Gerald continued, looking directly at the screen showing Marcus's face. Those funds revert to the primary beneficiary, which is your sister. Additionally, any beneficiary who causes harm to another beneficiary forfeits all interest in the trust. So even if you were to appeal your conviction successfully, which seems unlikely given the evidence, you would still have no claim to any trust funds due to your documented actions toward your sister. Marcus said nothing. His attorney said nothing. There was nothing to say. Furthermore, Gerald continued, the house will be sold to pay your legal defense costs and the restitution your sister is entitled to for property damage and emotional distress. After legal fees and restitution, there will be approximately $40,000 remaining from the estate, which would normally be split between both children. However, given that your criminal actions directly caused the property damage, your sister is entitled to your share as additional restitution. My mother's face had gone white. She understood none of this. She had helped her son try her daughter for money that didn't exist in any form they could access. The trust account freezing happened 2 weeks later, though not in the way Marcus and my mother had feared. They'd never had access to the trust accounts because they'd never known the trust existed, but they had both opened credit cards and taken out loans based on their expected inheritance. They'd spent money they thought was coming, running up debt against an estate they'd never actually inherit. When their creditors discovered there was no inheritance, that the estate was effectively insolvent after legal fees and restitution, they froze every account Marcus and my mother had, trying to recover what they could. My mother's car was repossessed. Her house went into foreclosure. Marcus had nothing to freeze. He'd spent everything. I attended both sentencing hearings. Marcus showed no remorse, still convinced I'd somehow cheated him. My mother cried and apologized, saying she'd been manipulated by Marcus and hadn't understood what was happening. The judge didn't believe her, neither did I. The house sold 6 months later. After paying all the legal fees, repair costs, and restitution, there were $38,000 left. It went to me. Marcus got nothing. My mother got nothing. The trust continued generating income through my father's carefully structured investments. I hired a financial advisor to manage it, keeping only what I needed to live comfortably and reinvesting the rest. I bought a small house in a different state. Something modest and safe, nothing like the Victorian mansion where I'd almost died. Marcus will be eligible for parole when he's 53. My mother will be out when she's 68. I've already written letters to the parole board explaining that I consider them both ongoing threats to my safety. I've documented everything. I have restraining orders prepared for when they're released. People ask me sometimes if I've forgiven them, if I plan to reconcile eventually. Family is family, they say. But family tried to burn me alive for money they didn't even understand. Family locked a door and lit a fire and watched from a car while their daughter and sister almost died. Some things don't deserve forgiveness. Some relationships don't deserve reconciliation. My father knew what Marcus was capable of. That's why he structured the trust the way he did, with conditions, contingencies, and protections. He knew my mother would enable Marcus would choose her golden child son over her difficult daughter. He'd watched it my entire childhood. He couldn't protect me from the immediate aftermath of his death, but he protected me from the long-term consequences. He made sure that when they showed their true nature, when they revealed exactly who they were and what they were willing to do, they'd have nothing to gain from it. The money they tried to kill me for was already mine. The fortune they thought they'd split was structured to protect me from them. The inheritance they believed would make them rich was designed to reveal their character and strip them of everything. My father's last gift to me wasn't just $12 million. It was the certainty that when Marcus and my mother finally faced consequences for a lifetime of abuse, manipulation, and, ultimately, attempted, they have no one to blame but themselves. They burned down a house for money that was never theirs. They destroyed their own lives trying to steal what they could never have. And I survived with everything my father meant for me to have: his fortune, his house, and the freedom from ever having to see either of them again.